Good afternoon. Hello, can you hear me? Okay, so I believe we can get started. Thanks everyone for joining this webinar. Thank you for taking out time. To start with, I can introduce myself. I am Sayam Goel, a lead CPA working with the core partners as a partner. A core partners were first founded in 2018, and since then we have been working uh, mostly into the information security domain, majorly across the SOC audits, the ISO audits, HIPAA, high trust, and most of the information security and other compliances. And I would like to thank CFE CERT for giving me this opportunity to conduct a webinar and get a chance to interact with, with the people. And we can get started. We can take it from there. So the agenda of this webinar is we'll be talking about the structure and framework of a SOC report, what a SOC report is, what is the significance, how do we use it, what are the various sections within the SOC report, and many other things related to that. And we do have a quiz as well and prizes for the winners. So I'll be sharing the link for the quiz at the end of the session. So stay tuned and you can get a chance to win a reward. So I'll move on. So talking about CFE CERT, so it's an independent auditing company accredited to UKS and IS, and it operates in many countries. And they also are a member of British Education Accreditation Authority. And personally speaking, we have been into a good relationship with the CFE CERT and kind of assisting them with various certifications and other requirements that they have. And um, it's really, you can say, a learning rich experience working with CFE CERT. So I would again like to thank them for providing me this opportunity. So I'll move on to next slide. So these, as you can see, these are the various topics or the various areas we'll be covering as a part of this webinar, starting from the introduction, what is a SOC report, and then different types of SOC reports, what is the need of SOC report, who needs it, and then components, various components of a SOC report, understanding them, and the suitability and applicability part. So talking about the introduction, SOC 2 specifically, we'll be focusing more on SOC 2 because that is, you can say, in more demand these days. So we'll be little focused around SOC 2, but yes, we'll also be talking about SOC 1 and SOC 3s. So talking about SOC 2 is a voluntary compliance standard for service organizations developed by AICPA. So the governing or the regulatory body for the SOC reports is AICPA, which stands for American Institutes of Certified Public Accountants, or CPA is a certified public accountant. And the SOC report standards are regulated by AICPA. And it specifies that how organizations should manage their customer data. SOC 2 is an auditing procedure that ensures your service provider securely manage your data to protect interest of your organization and privacy of clients. So SOC 2 has various trust service criteria, like mainly 5. Security is the must and the first one. And then we have availability, confidentiality, privacy, and processing integrity. So it is more about gaining comfort on your clients or your vendors' internal information security controls. Because as a third party or as an external party, you might not be able to see and check, okay, how mature the organization is having internal controls and whether or not they'll be able to handle your data securely, because when you get into a relationship, let's say if you are getting into a work agreement with a software development company, then you might want to share some of the information from your end to there, which will be residing in their environment. So in order for you to get a comfort that, okay, whatever I share with them, they'll keep it securely, that is when you'll need a SOC report. Okay. So you'll ask, okay, if you can show me a SOC report so that I can ensure you have appropriate change management controls or data security controls in your environment. And there are many other controls. This is a, you can say, high level overview or key controls, which I just talked about. And talking about this presentation, this will outline the various SOC reports as like SOC 1, SOC 2, and SOC 3, and we'll try to understand the purpose and the components of each report. You can pause me anytime you want to if you have any questions, and I'll be happy to answer. So what is a SOC report? Earlier, before 1st May 2017, that was when SSAE 16. SSAE is the standard for SOC attestation, which was upgraded to SSAE 18. Prior to that, it was known as service organization controls, because SOC reports govern the controls within the service organization. So they were known as service organization control reports. But after the upgrade from 16 to 18, like recently it got upgraded to SSA 21 as well on 15th of June 2022. But the major change was from SSA 16 to 18 when we changed this terminology of the SOC reports, and you can say they were called systems and organization controls in place of service organization controls, effective 1st May 2017. And what they do is they help establish companies' trust and confidence in their services, including the delivery process and controls. So there are multiple ways, like in order to get yourself SOC certified, you have to get into an engagement with a certified CPA. CPA is a certified public accountant who is authorized to conduct SOC audits by AICPA. So you have to get into an engagement with them, meet the contractual obligations, and you can discuss your requirements with them and kind of do the scoping part first. Okay, these are the systems, this is the IT landscape that we would like to get attested as a part of the SOC report. And then there are different stages. I'll take you through them. So if I talk about the key points, so what we have in this slide is this report helps service organization to establish trust and confidence in their services or products, including the delivery processes and security controls. So if I, as a third party, want to build trust in my customers, okay, you can come and do business with me, and we can have a good business relationships, because I'm SOC certified, and SOC certified means, okay, these many controls which are tested as a part of my SOC report, they are operating effectively, and I have good information security, data security, and other controls which build interest, induces interest and confidence in the customers and the vendors. And so different type of SOC reports have different type of usages. SOC 1 and SOC 2 are mainly meant to be used by the service organization, their user entities and user auditors. However, a SOC 3 report is a public report and can be put up on anyone's, like clients or organization's own website, and can be shared with public. And it's very limited, very precise report as compared to SOC 1 and SOC 2, which are quite detailed. So yes, for SOC 1 and SOC 2, we have the service organization, user entities, and user auditors as the intended users. But for SOC 3, it is meant to be public. So these are the different type of SOC reports we have outlined here. SOC 1, SOC 2, SOC 3, SOC for cybersecurity, and SOC for supply chain. I can talk in brief about all five. So SOC 1 report will be a report which will be addressing any controls that can impact the financial reporting of the user entities, right? So if let's say I am a company who provides payroll services to my clients, so my client shares their payroll data with me. So how I process that payroll data, how I produce the payroll results can impact my client's financial reporting. So my client will be interested in looking at my SOC 1 report to ensure that I have appropriate controls in place to address any risk uh, related to financial misstatements or anything that might happen, or any risk related to data security or physical security that might be there. So any controls which can impact the financial reporting of the service organization, user organization, are covered as a part of SOC 1 report. Then SOC 2 report is more around information security, wherein we want to look at the controls which can impact the data security. They can be encryption related, they can be data in motion, data in rest related controls. And there are 5 key trust service criteria which govern the SOC 2 report, as I mentioned earlier. Security is the must. And if any organization is going through a SOC 2 report and they have to choose only one trust service criteria, that will be security. And the other 4s are optional. The service organization can choose as per their scoping and as per their business models, or how they are dealing with the clients or user organizations data. So the other 4 trust service criteria are availability, confidentiality, processing integrity, and privacy. A SOC 3 report is very similar to SOC 2 report in terms of that is also governed by TSCs, but it will not have certain sections like section 4, 5, which have the test results of the controls. It will be very limited, and it will just have section 1, 2, and very little information about the IT environment or systems within the service organization. SOC for cybersecurity will address any key controls related to cybersecurity risks, which might not be addressed in a standard SOC 2 report. And similar is the case for supply chain. So the intent or the purview of the reporting or the controls that we're trying to cover will change. In SOC for cybersecurity, we'll try to cover more, or it will be more inclined towards the cybersecurity controls. And similarly, supply chain will be more inclined towards the supply chain related controls. We'll move on to next. I'll take a pause if anyone has any question or anything, any doubts. If not, then I can move on. Okay, I move on. The next we have a SOC 1 report, as I explained. So any service organization which is providing services like payroll processing or HR resourcing, or any such service which can impact the user organization's financial reporting, or there's an involvement of you can say financially significant data, and the user organization is relying on the processing or any information that is produced by the service organization for their working, then in that case, it is recommended to have a SOC 1 report. We have examples like payroll processors and medical claim processors here. I think we've covered this. I'll just go through this. The main benefit which we have here is this can save an organization's time and money by addressing many common control related questions that arise from multiple auditors. And the target audience that we have is, it is intended to be used by management of the service organization, user entities, and user entity auditors. I'll move on to next, the SOC 2 reports. As we discussed, it is designed for service organizations that provide information to user entities about non-financial controls. The report outlines the effectiveness of an organization's internal controls and security controls implemented to safeguard the customer data. So as we talked about, it is more focused on data security and information security related controls, in contrast to a SOC 1 report, which is more focused around the financial controls. And the controls we have in the SOC 2 report are reviewed against the 5 trust service criteria, which we have here, which we talked about. The examples for a SOC 2 report can be third-party service providers, including human resource management, document management services, cloud computing services, uh, shared IT services, IT development services. Those can be examples where a user organization might want to see the SOC 2 report for the service organization. The key benefits that we have is it gives your organization a competitive edge over the others who cannot provide SOC 2 compliance. And this will provide valuable insight to an organization on the internal controls and safeguards. The target audience, again, for this report is the management of the service organization, the user entities, and the user entities auditors, and the regulators. Next we have is SOC 3 reports. As we talked about, SOC 3 reports are very similar to SOC 2 reports, apart from the fact that we do not have the results of tests, which are generally there in the section 4 of the report. They are not there. And we have very limited information about the system of the service organization in section 3. And then we have section 1 and 2 with auditor opinion and the management assertions. And the details captured in the reports are very less. Like the details are very less, and this is mainly used for wider distribution and public portals. Like any service organization can put this report on their website on public domains to demonstrate or to showcase that, look, we are SOC compliant. And this can give a gist about service organizations internal systems and can be used to induce trust within the prospective or potential customers. They are meant to be talking about the benefits. They are meant to be used for like public, and the target audience is again public, and is as at the description of management, like for what purposes they want to use that. And these usage guidelines for SOC 1, SOC 2, SOC 3 reports are governed by AICPA. This is how AICPA has laid out the guidelines. Okay, SOC 1 should govern controls around financial reporting. SOC 2 should govern controls around information security. SOC 3 are meant to be for public use and should have limited information. So that is all governed by AICPA. Talking about the SOC for cybersecurity reports. So they can be useful for any organization and can be used to ascertain the effectiveness of the cyber security risk management programs within the service organization. The benefits, key benefits that we have are they provide relevant information to the decision makers about how an organization is managing cybersecurity threats and the processes and controls implemented to detect, respond, mitigate, and recover from breaches and any other security events. So why this cybersecurity reports are getting more and more prevalent? The reason for that is because things are moving to cloud nowadays. We are moving from physical servers to the cloud servers, and everything is on a network, right? So if any service organization is providing any kind of service which has like a very good amount of interaction with internet, or they are, let's say, on public domain open to everyone's use, then they need to have very strong cybersecurity related controls. And in order for those service organizations to introduce trust in their potential customers or existing customers, that see, we have very strong cybersecurity controls, and we are SOC for cybersecurity certified, and you can rely on us. So that is the whole purpose of having this report. And if I talk about the audience, so they are designed for decision makers such as senior management, board of directors, investors and business partners who might need information about organizations' cybersecurity risk management program. Next is SOC for supply chain. So these reports are, again, as I mentioned, the purview or the sense of reporting or the scope or things we are trying to address will change in each and every report. So in this report specifically, will provide information about organization controls to detect, prevent, and respond to supply chain related risks. Cybersecurity was all about cybersecurity program and their related risks, and this is supply chain related risks. This will be more suitable for an organization who's more into business of supply chain and help, which is helping their user organization managing their supply chains. Talking about the benefits, they provide relevant information to the decision makers about the risks identified by the supplier that affect production, manufacturing, or distribution, and controls implemented by the supplier to mitigate such risks. And the target audience for such reports will be the customers and business partners for understanding the risks of doing business with a particular manufacturer, producer, or distributor, and to develop controls to mitigate those risks. So that's all about supply chain or SOC for supply chain reports. I'll take a pause. We discussed all the 5 types of report in details. So I'll take a pause and I'll look forward to any questions or anything that anyone wants to discuss. Any questions from anyone? Okay, I'll take it as no. Moving on, we have the key differences between the various SOC reports. So as you can see, we have tried to summarize the different aspects of different SOC reports and what are the key differences, how are they different from each other. So you can see here in SOC report, the See the organization type we have here for SOC 1, SOC 2, SOC 3 as the service organizations. This can be used for any of the organization, and this is very specific to the manufacturers, producers, and distributors. The intended users, you can see we have the service organization management, user entities, and user entity auditors here. SOC 3 is meant for public use. And then we have the business partners and investors add-ons here, same as here, the customers and the business partners. So this kind of summarizes the various differences, the likes and the differences between the different types of SOC reports that we have. The purpose, the target audience, and the subject matter. So this will address or cover the controls relevant to user entities financial reporting. This will cover controls relevant to systems, security, availability, all the 5 TSCs, security, availability, processing integrity, confidentiality, or privacy. And this is same as SOC 2, but very limited information, no test of results or controls, and very limited section 3. This is more around organization cybersecurity risk management program, and this is more around organization supply chain program. So further in SOC 2, like if you would have been into a conversation with any of the, sorry, I just saw a question. So Victor's has a question that who can provide SOC consulting services? So consulting service is something which does not need any attestation, and any organization which has individuals or partners with fluent knowledge and a good hands-on experience within the SOC reports, they can definitely provide the consulting services. But yes, from an attestation standpoint, when the organizations actually go through the audit post-consulting, it has to be a CPA firm or an individual CPA to attest those reports. Hope that answers your question. So we have another question from Biden. He says, just for clarification, what you are saying is SOC 3 reports are high level or summary of SOC 2. Is this correct? Okay. So any SOC report has 4 or 5 sections. Section 1 is independent auditor's opinion, where the CPA auditor or the CPA firm auditor who has performed the SOC attestation will give their opinion whether like how did they attest, what are the subservice organization and all that. All those details will be there, and the final opinion will be qualified or non-qualified. A qualified opinion would mean that there was a significant deficiency in the operating effectiveness of the controls, which they noted while testing the controls. A non-qualified opinion will mean a clean report and there were no significant or material weaknesses or gaps or deficiencies that the auditor noted during the attestation of the controls. Section 2 is the management assertions, which is a written representation which the management of the service organization provides. And section 3 is a very detailed section which has the description of the service organization's IT infrastructure, like the network diagrams, the organization chart, various IT applications, and many other things. Then we have section 4. Section 4 will have the list of all the controls which were tested as a part of that report and their corresponding test procedures and test results. And section 5 will have any additional information that the service organization wants to convey, any upcoming business plans or any upcoming IT changes or something like that which they want to convey to their prospective customers or anyone who is intended to use that report. So comparing the SOC 2 and SOC 3 report, section 1 and 2 will be very same. Section 3, which is very detailed in SOC 2, will be very limited and concise in SOC 3. Section 4 and 5 will not at all be there in the SOC 3 report. So that is the major difference. So I hope that answers your question, Biden. Okay. So we'll move on to next. So Rashid asked whether we can get this document or video. You can definitely. We have this. I think this is live broadcast on YouTube, and CFE Cert can surely assist you getting this document or video after this webinar is over. So I'll move on to the next, which is type 1 and type 2. So for every SOC report, may it be SOC 1, SOC 2, SOC 3, SOC for cybersecurity or supply chain, we'll have 2 types of reports, a type 1 report and type 2 report. Type 1 means a point in time attestation or a design effectiveness attestation for all the controls that we are testing as a part of that report. So let's say if we have a control which says new joiners are required to complete their induction training. So in order to test that control, I'll sample one users. I would want to see one user's training records who recently joined. So that will be a point in time test for any recent occurrence that would have been there for any specific control. So we just test one sample for each of the control, or do a kind of walkthrough assessment or a design assessment for all the controls that we are testing. And the key difference is in the section 4, we generally don't have the detailed test procedures for the controls. We just have the control ID, control description, and the test results. We do not have the detailed control test procedures that we perform to test that control. A type 2 report, in contrast, is for a certain period. The type 2 period can be as per the service organization's requirement. It can be for 3 months, minimum of 3 months, and then can vary from 3 to 12 months. So this all the controls which we are testing as a part of the SOC type 2 report will be for a certain period, and we'll select certain samples basis the sampling methodology. And so let's say if my audit period is from Jan to December, okay, I want to test certain controls from Jan 1st, 2023 to December 31st, 2023. So for all the occurrence-based controls, I might want to see the populations, okay, who all users joined. And then for few of the sample users, let's basis the sampling methodology, whatever we have, we can choose those samples. And for those particular samples, we can obtain the support, test the supporting evidence that we have, okay, whether or not those users completed their trainings in time, whether or not they have an NDA in place, or whether or not they have a signed code of conduct, and all those controls. So type 2 is for a certain duration, coverage of a certain duration, and type 1 is a point in time assessment. I'll take a pause. Any questions on type 1 and type 2? I'll take it as no. I'll move on. So this slide highlights the differences between the type 1 and type 2 report from a reporting perspective. So from a controls standpoint, we'll have design and implementation of policies and procedures. As I mentioned, it is more of a design assessment. And then type 2 report will be design, implementation, and operating effectiveness. Operating effectiveness is the key difference, wherein we are evaluating whether or not the controls which we are testing were operating effectively throughout that period, which we are covering as a part, which we are covering in the type 2 report. And then time frame, it is as on a specific date, and this is for a certain time period or time duration. Description of test of results and control test, this is not included, and this is there in the type 2 report. Moving on, the different components of the SOC report. I think we already discussed this while I was answering Biden's question about SOC 2 and SOC 3, but we can again take this. So there are 5 key sections that we have. Section 5 is not mandatory. We can have, we cannot have, we may not have as per the service organization's requirement. But yes, first 4 sections that we have are mandatory. Section 1 is independent auditor's report. Section 2 is management assertion. Section 3 is system description. Section 4 is description of criteria or test of results of the test performed. And then we have section 5, wherein we want to include any information. So talking about each section, auditor's report, this will include information written by the auditor and highlight whether or not the organization passed the assessment, which is categorized either as qualified or unqualified. So unqualified opinion will mean pass or clean report. Qualified opinion will mean that auditor noted some material weakness or some major gaps while testing these controls. Qualified may seem positive. It sounds positive. Okay, I qualified, like if I qualified some exam, but in SOC report, qualified is a negative opinion, and it means that the organization has inadequately implemented a control and can be referred as failed the audit. And the auditor found 1 or more issues that did not work effectively throughout the period. So qualified opinion can be for both for type 1 report and type 2 report. In type 1 report, it would mean that certain controls were not designed effectively and were not at all in place. In type 2 report, it would mean that they were not operating effectively, or maybe they were not in place. An unqualified opinion means a positive opinion and means passed, and they did not find any issues or any major gaps in the controls during the specified period. Again, unqualified can be for both type 1 and type 2. Type 1 would mean that the controls were designed effectively. Type 2 would mean that controls were designed and operating effectively. Any questions? I'll take a pause. Next we have is the management assertion. So it allows to state that they prepare and implement their own system descriptions. And it is an assertion by the organization giving the overview of their organization control and design operating effectiveness. The keys, the key statements or commitments which are there are designed and implemented within a specific period, and description operated effectively throughout the specified period. While this section will not contain the technicalities, but it is a kind of representation, or you can say declaration by the management for their own controls. Next is section 3. So this section includes important information about the people, process, and technology that support their organization's product or service. Some companies often write their system descriptions, and it serves as an overview of their organization's system and controls that they have in place. This is the most critical section, as I mentioned, and it will help assess whether or not the system components are effectively protecting the customer data. The key 8 components that AICPA recommends to have in the section 3 or description of systems are the types of services provided by the service organization, the principal service commitments and system requirements, components of the system, trust service criteria and corresponding controls, complementary user entity controls, complementary sub-service organization controls, system incidents, and significant changes to systems during the audit period. So two terms might be new to you: complementary user entity controls and complementary sub-service organization controls. So I'll take you through them. Complementary user entity controls are, so if I'm a service organization and I'm providing certain services to my user organization, in order for my services and my controls to operate effectively, there are certain controls which should uh, also be in place at the user organization. So if I'm providing software as a service to some user organization and there's something which breaks down, so I have a control in place, an incident management or customer redressal, grievance redressal control in place, that any complaint that comes to me will be resolved within 24 hours or so hours. But for that, it's user organization's responsibility to inform me about that incident. So that becomes a complementary user entity controls. Till the time I'm not aware, or if the user organization does not come to me reporting or saying that, okay, I have this issue, I cannot uh, trigger or act upon that grievance, right? So that is a trigger from user entities side, which needs to be there in order for me to have my customer grievance redressal control in action. And similarly, sub-service organization. So if I'm providing certain service like software development service or any other service to my user organizations, but I'm taking help in turn from some other organization. So let's say if I'm hiring developers from some ABC organization and I'm further outsourcing my work to some XYZ organization, then that XYZ organization becomes a sub-service organization for my user entity, because I'm the service organization for my user entity, and the organizations which I'm taking further service from becomes a sub-service organization. A good example for that can be if I have hosted my IT infrastructure on AWS, then I'm taking the cloud hosting services from Amazon. In that case, Amazon becomes a sub-service organization for my user entity. And complementary sub-service organization controls will be the controls which the sub-service organization should have. So let's say if I hosted my IT infrastructure on Amazon, then it's Amazon's responsibility to have appropriate physical security controls for the servers, appropriate logical security controls for the servers, and so on. So those are the examples of few of the complementary sub-service organization controls. So I'll take a pause here if anyone has any questions around CUECs. So complementary user entity controls are abbreviated as CUECs, and sub-service organization controls are abbreviated as CSOCs. I'll take a pause. Any questions on CUECs or CSOCs? Okay, I'll take it as no and we'll move on. The next section we have is the description of the criteria or the test results. So this is the most detailed section, and this is where we document all the controls that we have tested as a part of any report, SOC 1, SOC 2, SOC 3, or any reports that we talked about. And we'll have the control descriptions, control IDs, their corresponding trust service criteria references, and the test results, the test procedures in place. For type 1 reports, we do not have the detailed test procedures, as I mentioned, but for type 2, yes, we do have. Moving on to next, the other information. This is an optional section, as I mentioned earlier, and you can provide any, the service organization can provide any additional information relevant to audit, and there can be details like any exceptions found. So if there are any exceptions which were noted, we can have management responses or any other information around that as well in this section. So those were the 5 sections we talked about from a SOC report standpoint. Any questions related to any of these sections? Anyone has? Please feel free to ask questions. We want it to be an interactive session. Okay, I'll take it as no. Moving on to next, which is the bridge letter. Sorry, Rashid, do you have any question? Okay, I think we can move on. So talking about the bridge letters, we can have bridge letters for both SOC 1 and SOC 2 reports. SOC 3 it is not required. So bridge letter is something. So let's say if I have a SOC report from Jan 1 to June 30, and then I took a break and I want auditors to come back again in December and do the remaining 6 months, which is July 1 to December 31. So for that gap period, we have the bridge letter, which contains a written representation by the management of the service organization saying that the controls which were in place in the SOC report for first 6 months will continue to operate in the similar fashion and continue to operate effectively for next 6 months as well. And the operating effectiveness can be ascertained by the service auditor when they come back in December and cover the remaining 6 months. So it is also known as a gap letter and an important document which is made available to by the service organization to cover a time period between the reporting period and the current SOC report. So basically to bridge the gap between the end period of the current SOC report and the issuance till the time we get a new SOC report. And this can be for a certain period, it cannot be for entire 12 months. Generally it is, so we have a question in Q&A. Okay. So generally it is for 3 to 6 months and not more than that, what has been as a good practice, you can see, or what I have seen on most of my engagements or clients. So bridge letter can be used by the user entity as an interim assurance. So service organization is giving a written representation and it is a kind of assurance that is being given to the user entity or the user of SOC report that while they are waiting for the next SOC report, it is giving an assurance or a kind of comfort to the users that the controls which were there in the last SOC report or the latest SOC report will continue to operate effectively, and they'll be able to demonstrate the operating effectiveness in the next SOC report. And it is designed to identify and address any material changes to internal control environment that have occurred during the gap period. If there are any gaps, then the service organization can certainly highlight those in the bridge letter. Okay, we are undergoing this change, or we have these gaps coming up, and um, gap will necessarily not mean a control deficiency or deviation, but can be from a scoping standpoint as well. The organization needs to have a bridge letter on file as a part of the annual due diligence to show the examiners that, as far as you are aware, controls were still in place between the reports, and you are prepared to request the new SOC report. Again, the same thing that we have. A CPA, the key point to note here is that the CPA firm is not issuing or attesting the bridge letter. It is the service organization which is giving a written representation to its SOC report users till the time they get a new SOC report, but the CPA firm has nothing to do with the bridge letter, and they are not attesting it or issuing it in any way. The bridge letter is signed off and issued by the service organization themselves and provided to their customers or the users of the SOC report. And it cannot be a replacement for any report, a SOC 1, SOC 2 report. It is just for bridging the gap between the old report and the issuance of new report. That's it. That's the whole intent. And can be used for like minimum of 3 months to 6 months. That's what I've seen. And that is a good practice that we have. A good industry practice, a general industry practice that we have. Any questions on bridge letter? Any questions anyone has related to bridge letters? Okay, the next we have is the breakdown of bridge letter. So it basically highlights the different sections or different components we have in the bridge letter. It will, or the key aspects which we cover as a part of the bridge letter. First thing is it will have the date of the most recently completed SOC report, including the beginning and the end dates. The second thing is the details of any changes in the organization's control environment that were made during the interim period or gap period after the completion of the previous SOC report and prior to issuance of the new one. If there were no changes, then letter must clearly state that the organization, to best of its knowledge and awareness, does not know any material changes. And then a statement that as of the bridge letter date, the service organization is unaware about any material changes or deficiencies in the control environment that could change the result of report reviewed by the CPA firm. And lastly, we have the bridge letter is solely relative to your service organization. So, and it does not rely upon any other entity. So as I mentioned, it is issued by the management of the service organization. There's no attestation or any involvement of the CPA or the CPA auditor in this. And it is solely for the service organization's customers use. So we are moving towards the end, the final thoughts. So as we discussed, nowadays what we have seen is the practice of outsourcing the services or getting things done from the service providers is getting more and more prevalent because it saves cost and a lot of efforts for the user organizations. But it is equally important for the user organizations to have a comfort on the service organizations IT environment and control environment. So SOC reports play a key role here, and they kind of act as a trust builder for the user organizations, and they kind of give a comfort and go ahead, okay, I am good doing business or sharing information with this service organization as they are SOC compliant, and they're very valuable to the user organizations, the service providers, and the users who are referring to the report. And determining the so it's the service organization who is, or they can take assistance from these service auditors as well to judge the best SOC report that suits their requirement. It can be SOC 1 if they're providing financial services. It can be SOC 2 if they're providing information security related services, data hosting services, or any other data related services. And it's always recommended to consult an experienced compliance specialist in terms of selecting the right SOC report and getting appropriate guidance during the final audit and the SOC report attestation. So attestation will always be done by AICPA authorized CPA, individual CPA or CPA firm. But as I mentioned, consulting can be done by an experienced compliance specialist. They can guide you, but they cannot attest you. So thank you so much. We are at end of the session. That's all I had. It was really nice talking to you all. I'll just put in the link for the quiz in the chat. You all guys can answer to the best of your knowledge, and we do have rewards for the top winning participants who respond with the correct answers. I'll just put in that link for the quiz. I hope everyone got it. I've just posted the link. This is the link for the quiz, and I would really want everyone, all the participants, to take this quiz to test your knowledge. My bad. I'll just repost it. Let me know if you got it. Okay. I'll request everyone to take this quiz to test your knowledge related to SOC reports. And again, thank you so much for all your time and taking out time to attend this webinar. It was really a pleasure for me, and thank you CFE Cert for giving me this opportunity. Thank you.